this is like very curious for me right now because I'm right now highly considering a partnership in my
Mhm.
business. So like
Yep.
what I love about these podcasts is I get to just steal moments to ask like high level people questions in public. It's great. It's amazing. But so like for instance, like how did you make it work where for instance like Jamil, it sounds like maybe Jamil was doing more deals, or do you guys feel like you were doing the same amount of deals and then you just synergize? How does it work when people are in different places, and how do you start merging something together? Because you guys had your own operations at the beginning, right? So how did you
Yep.
guys like merge it? How did you know it was time to merge, if that makes sense?
Yeah, man. So I think the biggest thing was if you can see the added benefit, right? So, like for instance, Jamil's doing 15 deals a month by himself, and then paired with us we can do 40. You know what I mean? Then it's
Right.
better. Like, hey, this is good. Like, sweet. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so I think there's that portion of it, but then there's also just the different skill. We'll say like what's the word I'm looking for? But different just generally like different skills. You know what I mean? So like
Mhm.
where Jamil is really phenomenal on that outward focus, Hunter and I are much better on the focus on the business structure and building the business, right? Internally. You know what I mean? And so whereas Jamil is phenomenal, relationally focused, like bringing in the correct right relationships and extremely talented there. He's also talented internally, just like Hunter and I could probably go try our best, bear with us, to go create those external relationships. We both had strengths that complemented each other, right? And so when we were able to bring those together, that's what allowed us to really, really excel beyond what either of us could do one-on-one. So kind of like if you've got two horses that are running together, dude, there's some parable or some thing, right? Where it's like one horse by itself can pull like 1,000 pounds, right? Or something like that. I'm totally butchering this, bro. Also, if there's any like ranchers or farmers, dude, they're like, oh, this guy. But like one horse can pull like 1,000 pounds, two horses can pull like 10,000 or some shenanigans, right?
Right.
And that's true if both horses are going in the same direction, right? If one horse is turned around going this way, then one horse can pull 1,000 and two horses can pull nothing, right?
Right.
Because they're opposing each other. And so that's where like you want to make sure that you're aligned on like first principles, right? Is kind of a
Mm.
big thing, right? And so if you're aligned
What's
on
that mean?
first principles,
What are first principles?
so a great example, like in the tech space, and I think it was I can't remember if it was like Keith Ravos or I can never say that guy's last name correctly, unfortunately, but he's a really cool dude. And maybe Peter Thiel, something like that. But they were talking like the example they use in the tech space is open source versus closed, right? And so like if you've got a tech team and some people think that, hey, what we build, we shouldn't share with anyone, should be closed, right? I think it's just called closed source or something like that. And
Okay.
then versus open source, which is anything we invent, we should share with the world so everyone benefits, right? If you hire in a team that has both of those, or you have two founders that believes those two opposing views, it's going to be really hard for that organization to thrive, right?
Right.
Because they're going to consistently bump into each other, right? And that's where I think it's interesting because I'm going to see if I can say these two words correctly. Homogenous groups from like a first principle standpoint, right? Not from a diversity standpoint or anything or like that, but from a corporate business standpoint, you want to be aligned around one mission. And so homogenous groups are more palpable, just like one sports team that's focused around their game plan. They know their game plan, they're going to rock it, right?
Makes
It's
sense.
not two people going different directions than heterogeneous groups, right? Where you've got multiple game plans, maybe two missions trying to exist simultaneously, and both founders have different visions, right? If one founder wants to exit in 2 years and the other founder wants to keep the business forever, right? Those are opposed. You know what I mean? And so it's not gonna be two horses running together where they get 10,000 versus 1,000. It's going to be two horses running against each other, or at least at a little bit of an angle. Whereas now, instead of even getting 1,000, they're getting 500 pounds pulled, right? And so, I think alignment is hugely important, and then alignment, complementative capabilities, right? And then you probably are looking for somewhat equivalent competency, right,
Right.
across the board. So that's probably work ethic, and then cognitive ability to some degree.
I gotcha. That was super interesting. I like that a lot. How have you ever dealt with? I'm just curious because it is one you where you guys are compared to where you guys were are such different places and like in such different like landscapes of human development of where you guys were probably as well as like even humans.
Mhm.
How do you keep the horses moving always in the same direction? Like I feel like as you're like Like, I don't even know, like, was it always the grand vision at the very, very beginning to be Keyglee what it is now? I know Jamil's talked about eventually either selling or like going public, I think, but like, how do you, have they ever diverged, or how do you bring them back together? Like, how does that
Great,
work?
great question, bro. And so there's two things that allow that to work, right? Especially when you're small, it's mostly just your constant conversation, right? And so
Mm,
you should be talking all of the time, and that's what meshes those two together and creates one, right? Is that constant communication, right? That's what they talk about in business, how communication is so important. But like, let's say that you're business partners and your company's starting to grow a little bit, and so you end up not talking to your business partner not that often. That will end poorly, almost always,
right.
right? And so you need to set up your weekly meeting, and you need to make sure you keep it, right? Where you're talking about, where you're syncing up on your data points, right? So if you were aligned at the beginning, right, and you both had kind of a similar vision, then one thing that will create a divergence between you two is if you both start to ingest different data points, right? So you're learning certain things about the business and hearing this from certain employees, and he's hearing this and learning different things about the business from these people over here, and hearing something different, maybe from title companies or something like that, if he's working that part of
Right.
the business and you're working with Acadispo. So now you guys both, when you guys are solving the problem, you're using different data sets, right? It's you're coming up with both good solutions, but different solutions. Whereas if you guys had been communicating every week, he would have your data set and you would have his, right? And so you'd have one data set that you're making a decision, or you're creating a solution for, right? Or making a decision based off of. And then the solution or the decision that you guys make will be much more similar, because you're making it from the same general data points, right?
Mm,
Since you guys were originally aligned on first principles, that generally works. And so that's one. Other than that, though, there's like cultural things, right? And so communication is huge, and just setting that up correctly. There's cultural different aspects, which we talk about even like in week 1 of AstroFlipping,
Can you
bro.
give
Like,
a example? Was there any example with you guys at Keyglee at the beginning or at any point that you're willing to share?
let me think, dude. I think some
Or
that
you
some that we would have would be like, that I think that we handled well, that I've seen tear a lot of other things apart, is the person that's outward facing. So like, let's say Jamil, for instance, has a relationship, and that relationship, so he's got this really good relationship. He hands it off to a team member, right? So now that relationship is now handled by the internal team, which is under me, right? Or under Hunter,
right.
right? And so, and something happens between, let's say, an acquisitions rep and that contact that used to be Jamil's, that is now handled by the internal team. And that contact doesn't like the interaction somehow. So they talk to Jamil, and they call Jamil and they say, hey, man, this happened. And they're all upset, and they bring that to Jamil. Right. So Jamil then could be like, what the heck? And call us all pissed off.
Right.
Right. And then we've got this whole kerfuffle. Right.
Right.
And so, like, that's not great. Right. Whereas what Jamil always does is he'll have the conversation and be like, okay, let me collect all this information. 100%. We want to make sure you're taken care of. Yeah, we don't want you to be treated poorly. I'm going to get on this. Let me check in. They say that to the contact. Then Jamil comes to us and says, hey, man, what's up, dude? So just wanted to run this past you. These are the bullet points that they had. Wanted to connect on this situation and see what we can do to ameliorate it, right? And generally, it's totally, dude, he coming not with the lens of like, dude, you guys screwed this up and I'm upset at you,
Right.
but coming with the lens of, my partner would never intentionally mess this up. And obviously it knows, and we're in agreement that we treat our customers and clients and business partners with a tremendous amount of respect. So there must be some disconnect in conversation. And so there's just some missing link. Let's just have the conversation. We'll get this solved. Right. So bringing that type of an attitude to it results in resolution, and the client's happy. Jamil never got heated or got worked up. We never got heated or got worked up. Resolved, no issue, easy. Awesome. Whereas a lot of times what would happen is this person calls this partner that they used to work with. They call the internal partner, pissed off that the internal partner did these terrible things, you know what I mean? And doesn't care about their customer, and is like, I'm like, when the customer was with me, they were awesome and always happy.
Gotcha.
Now they're with you guys and they're all pissed. Oh, what's wrong with you guys? And then this person's all defensive. Then they get all upset at each other,
Right.
and it's a ginormous deal. And so we have the opportunity to make everything a ginormous deal in business. And the best leader brings peace, period. Right. So no matter what the circumstances, if you are a leader, you are a bringer of peace. Right. And so if you're not adding peace to every situation, you're not leading. If you're the person that escalates it, you're not a leader. You're not leading. Right. Like if you're making everything seem like a bigger deal than it is, you're escalating, the leaders de-escalate. That's how they're able to handle so much, right? If they were to escalate everything, they couldn't handle anymore, right? And so like in a partnership, you want to be de-escalating things always, not escalating them.
I love it. I love that so much. That was like one of the best quotes ever said on this podcast is leaders are the ones who bring peace to the situation. I really like that. One last partnership question, just because I've been thinking about this all day and now I've got you here. So was there any like imbalance of like how many deals you guys were doing, and then like any decision of like anybody being like, hey, like I deserve more because of I'm doing more deals or doing less deals or anything like that? Or was it more just everyone's like, nope, we're going in it equally. I see each equal part. I'm just curious if there are any conflicts like that at the beginning.
So there's lots of things that you want to add, right? Like there's things that you want to factor in because you want it to be fair, right? You want it to be 50-50, but there's other things outside of deal volume that make it 50-50, right?
Right.
And so considering those additional factors, like there might be 15, there's probably hundreds, there are hundreds, but you might consider 5, right? Like what hours does the person normally keep, right? In their work, what assets do they have, and what will those assets impact my business, right? Like let's say that you've got a ton of deals you cancel on all the time and they've got a ginormous buyers list. Right. Like it doesn't really matter that they're only selling two deals a month right now because no one brings them their deals. If I've got 20 deals that I know would sell to their list and I'm doing 10 deals right now, but I know I'll be doing 30 as soon as I join them, even though they're only doing 2 right now, that's a pretty great gig. You know what I mean? Like,
I get what you mean.
All of a sudden, you know what I mean?
What is the X factor, basically, is what you're saying. Like, how much are you going to X factor with them on it?
Yeah, and you're trying to, because remember, it should be a multiplier in the partnership. You should cause each other to go more than what you could do alone, right? And more than just 1 + 1. It needs to be 1 + 1 = 11 type of thing.
Yeah, I've said that before. I've said that exact quote. I can't like I might have gotten that from you. I'm not sure. Like I've heard that.
Definitely not, bro. I don't know that.
It's a common one. Okay, cool. I'll get off partnership. So you guys come together. You freaking start crushing it. But then what happens? Like what are the new fears that you're dealing with, right? Like what are the things that are the emotional headaches that start coming once all of you guys start working together in order to make something awesome? Right?
Yeah, dude. So the biggest thing in partnerships is if you feel like you guys might be diverging in agreements, and this is where like roles and responsibilities are super important. So actually starting to build the right structure that allows you guys to succeed as partners, right? So originally you're just next to each other, so you talk to each other all the time. But then as you start to grow, right? Well, then you need to set up roles and responsibilities. Who owns what? Who gets the final say where? Those types of things, right? Otherwise, you'll constantly have friction between each other. And then you'll also have things like, you know, you told one employee that they need to improve in this area, and they went and talked to your partner to complain about that. And then your partner called you and said, hey, man, just want to let you know, like some such upset, somebody what you said. It's like, yo, dude, no, bro. Like you need direct reporting lines. And so you start to add in structure. And in absence of structure, I think that's where those like two things. When we originally had Keyglee and we didn't have structure as dialed as it could be, I think that's where I don't know that we did. Honestly, dude, we've been so blessed, man. Like God just set up our partnership so well. It's been amazing. But I can see where a lot of partnerships have difficulties there because you've created this amazing thing with this other person. If they go sideways, right? If they go sideways altogether and they go off crazy town this way, well, it destroys what you guys built. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's dependent on both of you guys working together, right? And heading in the same direction. If they decide that they're going to just shoot off to the side, then that threatens what you guys have built. And that can be like, it can be scary to give that amount of trust to a partner. Right.
Yeah.
So that's one.
So why weren't you afraid of that? Like, what would you just feel it? Were you just like, oh, no, it's going to be fine? Or was it might have been just because you were doing so many deals together already?
No. I think that honestly, dude, like one, I think that we really made a good effort to communicate. And the other part is just like, we're just super blessed. Hunter and Jamil and Rahim are all amazing people. And so amazing people, that helps tremendously. And then really just that combined effort to communicate constantly so that we're all sharing the same data points led us to make a lot of the same decisions. And dude, Keyglee is really big on the foundation of love. You know what I mean? Like don't don't interpret things through your past negative experiences and lenses, right? Always give the other person the benefit of the doubt. Always, right? So anytime you're coming into a conversation, you give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And I think those things have served us tremendously well, making our partnership really healthy. So that would
I
be,
love it.
yeah, my thought there. I had one other fear that we came. Oh, the other fear is just like when you're hiring in people, like it doesn't matter how much money you're making, right? You're hiring in people and you're like, oh man, like, you know, I'm starting to have overhead, I'm starting to have fixed costs. Exactly. And if I mess this up, it impacts all these people's lives. I think that's a natural fear, you know what I mean? When you're starting a business, and or like when you're buying your first few houses, you're committing to houses, dude. And the thing is, like, you just got to commit that stuff to God, jump off the diving board and go for it.
So I 100% know Keyglee is like an incredibly kind of like religious organization, God oriented. How do you guys feel that's like impacted your guys' success, right? Like how, like you guys, I think you guys all met at church, maybe, or at least you met Hunter at church, right? And then you guys, like how how do you feel like starting that foundation there with like God or religiousness or even spirituality just in general has like affected everything?
Dude, that's an amazing question, bro. I mean, I attribute all my success to God, right? And so it's cool, man. Like there's this bit in the Bible. I need to pull this up in Deuteronomy, I think. Deuteronomy 8 something or other, but basically it talks about
you. I'll be pulling it up while you're saying it. Don't worry.
Bro, if you
we'll
find
the
it,
exact
hold up.
Pull out the Bible real quick, guys.
All right, here we
go.
Do
a mini Bible thing.
That's bro, you just got to put up with it if it's me, dude. It's just how it happens.
It's all good.
But this thing was super impactful for me, bro. It was where is it at? All right, if I can't find it in 2 seconds, I'll just call it. Yeah, so you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your forefathers. But it's him that gives you the power to get wealth, right? And so I think the biggest thing that kills leaders, bro, is pride. Like it's pride before the fall. You know what I mean? Like they start to attribute stuff to themselves. They start to get cocky, and literally it's like, yeah, boom, right? Like there's so many examples of that where pride comes in and then people just can't work with that person anymore, right? Or no one can teach them anything type of thing. And they become toxic to their environment or to their workplace, and everything just implodes, right? And so I think what's cool about that verse is this talks like, you know, what I believe is that God has a plan and a purpose for every single person, right? And he's going to place some innate desires in your heart towards that purpose and that plan, right? So like a lot of people were asking me, it's like, you know, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I'm not sure that that's what God has for me. And I'm like, bro, if you've got the desire, dude, and it's like God put it in your heart, bro, go for it. Like that is your validation. All right. And we tend to think that everyone's like us. Like, yeah, but everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. It's like, not true. Not true at all. Just because that's us doesn't mean that's everybody. And if you're watching this, God probably put something like that on your heart. You know what I mean? And that's part of the plan and purpose he has for you, because those align. And with that, he's equipped you with gifts and talents in order to pull that off. Right. And so that's what it's talking about. It's saying, hey man, the God's saying, yo, dude, I gave you some amazing gifts and talents to be a great business person. Right. But I gave them to you. Right. And so we still making sure that we point back the success, right, and acknowledge him in all things, you know what I mean, I think is hugely important. So as far as our success as an organization, I think is entirely due to God blessing us and giving us the gifts and talents we need to excel in it. I think that as far as setting it up as a Christian organization, it's a joy, dude. Like we've got a Good Works project where we're able to do like really cool things for, you know, like kids, orphans in Cambodia, right? Like building an orphanage for them. And in Tanzania, like I'm going to Tanzania here in like literally 10 days. And we've got some schools out there that we're supporting. We're going to visit a hospital that they're setting up. Like there's just all of these amazingly good things that we can do, right, with the money that we've been blessed to generate. And bro, it's so good, dude. Like it's just a blast. So as far as, I think there's like, honestly, dude, I could talk forever on setting up a Christian company or spiritual principles. But I think specifically, dude, it's the love aspect and the care that you have for each other, and looking at each individual person as someone that God sent here, you know what I mean? Like, and having the fear of God that God entrusted them to the organization that you're leading. Right. I think that's freaking huge because you want to make sure that like God, you want this to be a place where God sends his kids to grow. Right. And so
I
you
love
want to
it.
honor God in that. So I think that's big. And then the other thing, dude, that's just been huge. Honestly, dude, like has been so amazing for me is like when things get stressful, which they do, you know what I mean? Like just being able to rely on God and be like, God, I know you got it, dude. It's been just the biggest game changer ever, bro. Like, yeah, he just always provides. So
I
it's good.
100% agree that I've noticed. I'm not incredibly religious, to be honest, but I definitely have noticed that like it is like insanely common among the most successful people in real estate that they really have like a strong either Christian or just some sort of belief or whatever. I have a strong belief in what I call the universe, which might just be a different name for the same thing anyways. But it's something I've noticed where it's like and it's exactly what you just said, that like moment, like having just a moment to be like, something's going to take care of this and it's going to be all okay. Everything's going to work out. Shit's going to go to the fan and it's totally fine. This happens. Sometimes title companies take my 13K EMD and give it to the buyer. You know, it just is what it is, right? That happened to me like 3 weeks ago. Mike, it's just like, I can't deal with this. Like I can deal with this. It's just not gonna be in the world. We're cool, right?
Yeah.
So Josiah, I want to respect your time. You got 3 minutes, but there's one question I always ask everyone at the very end of the podcast, which is, if you could go back in time to Josiah right when he's making that first call, like, and he's scared as hell and he's doing the gulp, right? What would you say to him now, knowing everything that you know today?
I would probably just say, hey, dude, mess it up. I'd just be like, dude, you only get your first call once, so just jack it up. Make it the worst call ever. You need a story. But seriously though, dude, like just do terrible. Like just absolutely throw it in the dumpster. Make it the worst call of your entire life because it doesn't matter, right?
I love it.
What does matter though is that you made the call, and so I think that when we see worst case scenario is it's the worst call ever, and then we realize that doesn't matter if it's the worst call ever. Like the guy that I had the first like buyer call with, I botched the crap out of this call. By the way, like the guy was like, "You're a fake." Like on the call, I was like, "How did I even mess that up so bad?" And I was like, "Sheesh, dude." And I've sold that guy like 20 houses.
Amazing. To this day, you've showed him 20 houses.
Yeah, he doesn't know that I'm the same guy, right?
Yeah, I was about to ask. Like, I was curious if you knew it was the same one or not.
Yeah, I do. I know it's the same one, but he doesn't know, right? And so,
did you call him like 3 years later, or how did he not? How did he?
I don't know. It was like I think I.
But you just kept calling him eventually.
I don't even know. I think I sent him like a Facebook message, or somehow he saw my website and got on my email list, and then called me off the email and didn't realize I was the same person. I don't know how it happened.
That happens sometimes.
Basically, if you've got deals, it's really hard to put yourself in such a bad position on one phone call. You can on 10 phone calls that someone doesn't want to buy that deal from you, right?
Right.
So honestly, just make the call. It's not that big a deal, and then by the time you get through a handful, like 20 of them, 40 of them, whatever, then the phobia goes away. You get comfortable, but then after that, you actually get good. Right. Where you like to get on the call because you're going to crush it. You're going to do a great job. So, yeah.
It just reminds me, I forgot I don't know who quotes this is, but you don't lose until you quit, basically. Like that's literally it. Like you haven't lost until you stop, more or less. Right. So
100%.
Anywho's, my man, you're amazing. You're a beast. I appreciate you so much. We're going to do next week. We're going to be back on our normal time, guys, 6 p.m. MST. Guys, Josiah is amazing. Josiah, is there anything you want to like promote or anything you want people to go to, or like maybe who send you deals at a certain place, or have an email, or
just
I don't know.
Follow Jonah's channel. Okay. Dude's stud muffin. Love him dearly. He's awesome. Also, bro, the little intro to this podcast, I'm just saying, thanks, fire. Okay.
It is. My social media manager did. My man, just again, you are a special human being. I love you so much. You always get me pumped up. I'll keep saying this to you. I've said this to you before. You gave me the let's freaking go. Like, let's go. Like, I do that with my team all the time now.
Love it, dude.
Whenever anything happens, whether it's good or bad. Because I literally remember you doing that to me when something would happen that was like somewhat good, right? Like I got something under contract and you're like, let's freaking go, even though it's like 50K above what it needs to be, you know, right? Like it doesn't matter. I learned that from you, so I appreciate that little nugget. That's one of the best ones I got.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, appreciate you, bro.
I love you, dude. I will see y'all next week.